There is a moment, quiet and almost invisible, when a man looks in the mirror and doesn't see himself, he sees who he could have been. Not who the world made him. Not who his past tried to shape. But the version that still exists beneath the rubble of excuses and forgotten dreams. This is the moment of awakening. And in this moment, something ancient stirs, a fire that whispers not in noise, but in certainty. You were not born to be a spectator in your own life. The world you live in was built by people no smarter than you. The streets you walk, the laws you follow, the money you chase, they were designed, reimagined, and enforced by people who bled, who failed, who doubted, and who dared anyway. So tell me, what stops you? Is it fear? Is it comfort? Is it the crushing weight of silence when you speak your truth and nobody claps? Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear: the world does not respond to your potential, it responds to your presence. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you become. And if you want to change the world, your world, their world, our world, then you must stop pointing at broken systems and start rebuilding the foundation inside yourself. Be the change. Not in theory. Not in hashtags. But in the way you show up when nobody's watching. Because greatness is never declared, it's demonstrated. When Gandhi spoke those words, "Be the change you want to see in the world," he wasn't offering a slogan. He was offering a blueprint for a kind of revolution that begins not with protest, but with personal mastery. You cannot lead where you will not go. You cannot heal what you will not confront. And you will not change what you are still making excuses for. So let me ask you, what do you believe in? Because belief is the birthplace of all transformation. And I don't mean blind hope. I mean that thunder inside your chest that refuses to die no matter how many times the world tries to silence it. Think of Edison, sitting in a dark room for the 1000th time, burned fingers, shattered glass, with every reason to quit. But he believed. Not in the bulb. In the possibility. In the light. Carnegie, born into poverty, no silver spoon, no safety net. But he believed in the value of vision, the dignity of hard work. And he built not just steel empires, but the dream that a man could rise above his circumstances. Belief is not passive. It is a war. It is the mind refusing to surrender when the body is exhausted. It is the soul saying, "I will rise," even when the odds scream otherwise. But belief, alone, is not enough. You must see clearly. Not just the world around you, but the one within you. Vision is oxygen for the soul. Without it, you choke on distraction. You drown in comparison. You starve in the presence of abundance. The man with no vision walks in circles. He builds half-finished bridges and wonders why no one follows. But the man with vision, he is dangerous. He is disruptive. Because he does not wait for the world to approve him, he moves as if it already has. So ask yourself, not what's popular, not what's trending, what do you see when your eyes are closed but your heart is open? Can you picture it? Not the money. Not the title. But the impact. Can you feel the lives you could touch if you stopped doubting, if you stopped settling, if you stopped editing yourself to fit into a world that was never built for your brilliance? Vision is the architect of destiny. But a blueprint means nothing without the bricklayer. This is where purpose enters. Purpose is not found on a mountaintop. It is revealed in the trenches. It is forged in the fire of trial and terror. It is birthed through sleepless nights and silent victories. Walt Disney lost everything. Bankruptcy. Rejection. Doors slammed in his face by people who couldn't see the castle he was building in his mind. But he never needed their permission. He had something stronger, clarity. He knew why he existed. And because of that, he could endure what others could not. Purpose makes pain tolerable. It gives suffering a direction. Without purpose, every failure feels fatal. With it, every obstacle becomes a teacher. So if you want to be the change, stop looking for the path, become the path. Burn your plan B. Stand so deeply in your truth that fear gets tired of trying to move you. Let your life scream what your lips are too afraid to say. Let your discipline sharpen your purpose into a weapon that cuts through the noise of mediocrity. Because discipline is love made visible. You don't show up daily for results. You show up because who you become in the showing up is worth more than any prize. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Discipline is not punishment. It's the highest form of self-respect. It's the promise you make to your future self, written in sweat, delivered in silence, and honored in the face of every temptation to quit. Look at the greats. Lincoln didn't lead through charisma. He led through conviction, discipline forged by failure. Before the presidency, he lost election after election. His businesses collapsed. His heart was broken. But he kept rising, kept studying, kept sharpening the blade of his mind until the world had no choice but to listen. The difference between the forgotten and the legendary is often one thing: who kept showing up when the applause stopped. You see, action is the final proof of belief. The world doesn't care what you intend to do. It only moves when you act. And inaction is a slow suicide. It kills your spirit one hesitation at a time. You want to change your life? Stop waiting for the mood to strike. Stop waiting for clarity, confidence, or courage to come knocking. They won't. Action is the antidote to fear. Movement generates motivation. And the first step is always imperfect, but it's always necessary. Even the Wright brothers launched from failure. Even Ford built prototypes that didn't run, with factories that nearly folded. But action, relentless, often messy action, kept the vision alive long enough for the world to catch up. Because once you move, you become visible, to opportunity, to growth, to fate itself. But don't move without awareness. This is where gratitude enters, not as a cliché, but as a weapon against the invisible poison of entitlement. Gratitude is not passive. It is a form of focus. It tunes the frequency of your mind to what is working, what is real, what is already in motion. Gratitude is the great recentering force. When the world tries to drag you into bitterness, envy, distraction, gratitude brings you home. And when you live from that place, when you lead from it, you don't chase happiness. You radiate it. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? You stop seeing obstacles and start seeing instruction. Because the world will test your spirit with change. And you must learn to bend, not break. Adaptability is not weakness. It's evolution. The oak tree that refuses to sway snaps in the storm. But the bamboo bends low and rises again. If you resist everything that doesn't go your way, you're not in control, your preferences are. True strength is found in the space between resistance and surrender. It's not about giving up your values. It's about staying fluid in your approach, rigid in your principles. When COVID shut down cities, businesses, entire industries, those who survived weren't the strongest. They were the most adaptive. They didn't cry out for normal to return. They built the new normal. They found new ways to serve, to lead, to live. Because they understood, the future belongs to the flexible. And every change, every unwanted detour, is really a disguised opportunity to evolve. Resilience is what transforms a breakdown into a breakthrough. It's not how many times you fall. It's what you do with the fall. You bleed. Good. Now you know you're alive. You fail. Good. Now you know where not to step. You lose. Good. Now you know how it feels, and that means you'll treasure the win when it comes. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't become your pain. It means you take it, process it, learn from it, and keep building anyway. The construction of your character is happening in real time. Every setback chisels something into your soul. The question is, will you let it sculpt you or scar you? The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, faced plague, betrayal, war, loss. And yet, his words remain, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That is the essence of change. That is the language of transformation. You must learn to speak it fluently. And as you grow, you'll be tempted to hold on to what you've outgrown. Comfort will call your name. Familiarity will flirt with your fear. But you cannot become your future while clinging to your past. Growth means shedding skins, leaving behind roles, people, patterns, sometimes even your own identity. Not because they were bad, but because they're no longer enough. You are a process, not a product. And that process is sacred. So read. Study. Observe. Seek wisdom not just from books but from experience. Be a student of everything. The way fire dances. The silence between notes. The patterns in failure. Learning is not for school. It's for survival. Because the second you stop learning, you start decaying. The world is moving. Fast. And if you're not evolving, you're dissolving. So take your lessons with humility. Let your ego dissolve in the acid of truth. And remember, every master was once a beginner. Every lion was once a cub. Every change you dream of begins not in a nation, not in a government, not in the news, but in the man or woman staring back at you in the mirror. That reflection you avoid, it holds your revolution. Not the loud rebellion of fists and fire, but the quieter, more dangerous kind, the rebellion of accountability. The uprising of ownership. You want the world to be honest? Start by telling yourself the truth. You want leaders who serve? Serve something greater than your ego. You want justice, fairness, peace? Then audit your own thoughts, your own biases, your own hypocrisies, because the change you demand from others must echo through the chambers of your own decisions. You cannot walk the path of kings with the posture of a coward. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is standing knee-deep in it and still choosing forward. And you will be afraid. Don't lie to yourself about that. Every step toward transformation carries the cost of shedding who you were. And your old self will scream. It will claw for comfort, cry out for the days when nothing was asked of it. But the call to rise is louder. And once you answer it, you'll find that life begins not when you arrive, but when you respond. See, the fire doesn't forge you by accident. It forges you because you entered it. Like steel in the smith's hands, your spirit must be bent, beaten, heated until it becomes something sharper, something unbreakable. So let the fire come. Let it strip you of your illusions. Let it burn down the fake identities you built to be liked. Let it reduce your excuses to ash. And from that ash, build something immortal. Because legacy isn't what you leave behind when you die, it's what you build in every living choice. Look around. The world is desperate for direction. Lost in noise. Paralyzed by outrage. Drowning in distraction. And yet, here you are. Breathing. Thinking. Capable. Not by accident, but by divine assignment. The timing of your birth was no mistake. You are here now because the world needs you, not a copy of someone else, not a watered-down version, not a muted shell of your possibility. It needs your full fire. Your unique genius. Your wild, undomesticated authenticity. But don't confuse that with ego. The goal is not to be worshipped, it's to serve. Not to impress, but to impact. You don't need millions of followers. You need one person whose life is different because you decided to become who you were meant to be. That's how change works. It's not an avalanche, it's a ripple. It's one parent choosing to break the chain. One leader daring to speak truth. One student deciding to rise above the mediocrity sold to them as realistic. It's you. It's always been you. Every system we complain about, someone built it. And everything that needs rebuilding, someone must build it. So why not you? Why not now? Why not stop scrolling past the problems and start becoming the solution? Don't ask for a better world while being a worse version of yourself. Every injustice you detest, ask where it hides inside you. Every quality you admire, ask how often it lives in your decisions, not your wishes. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs examples. And that's what being the change truly is. It's becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to preach, because your life proclaims the message loud enough. Speak with your integrity. Lead with your consistency. Shine through your discipline. Inspire through your action. That is influence. Not a podium. Not a title. But a life that radiates so fiercely, others feel braver just by being near it. And you don't get there by accident. You get there by alignment, when your thoughts, your choices, and your values walk in step like soldiers heading into battle. The world is watching. Not to judge, but to follow. And when you step forward in truth, you light the torches of those still stuck in the dark. One light. That's all it takes. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to start with one thing, yourself. Clean your room, as Jordan Peterson says, before you try to clean the world. Because if you cannot organize your own life, what makes you think you're fit to rearrange the lives of others? Excellence is contagious. Order creates peace. Courage spreads like fire in dry fields. So fix what you touch. Uplift what's near you. Protect what you love. Improve what you see. Do that long enough, and without even trying, you become the change. Not through slogans or speeches, but through the quiet, relentless consistency of a soul on fire. Because history doesn't remember what you wanted to change. It remembers what you dared to. There is something sacred about a life that chooses integrity over ease. Because in a world addicted to shortcuts, the long road becomes the most radical path. We are surrounded by the mirage of overnight success, curated images of perfection, and endless noise telling you that if it's not fast, it's failing. But let me remind you of something no algorithm can teach. Real change is slow. It's built brick by brick, moment by moment, breath by breath. It is the unseen morning routines, the silent refusals, the lonely hours when you choose discipline over distraction, truth over comfort, vision over visibility. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." That is the essence of transformation. Preparation. Foundation. Patience. While others chase applause, you sharpen. While others chase followers, you focus. Because change begins long before the world sees it. It begins in your structure. Your rituals. Your stillness. Your resolve. People think the great ones are lucky. No. The great ones prepared so relentlessly that luck had no choice but to meet them halfway. And when their moment came, they didn't shrink. They didn't blink. They stepped into the fire and became it. You must learn to do the same. Because eventually, your moment will come. A decision. A test. A calling wrapped in chaos. And in that moment, you won't rise to your best self. You'll fall to the level of your habits, your preparation, your mindset. So build now. Build when it's boring. Build when it's thankless. Build when no one claps and no one watches and no one cares, because the difference between those who change the world and those who talk about it is this. The world changers don't wait to be noticed. They move in silence until the results are too loud to ignore. And yes, you will be misunderstood. You will be mocked. You will be told you've changed, as if that's a bad thing. But what they call changed, you will call evolved. Because you must change. You must outgrow who you were. Outgrow the environment that kept you small. Outgrow the people who only loved your potential, but feared your power. You owe no one your stagnation. Your loyalty must be to your becoming, not their comfort. So shed the masks. Release the roles. Burn the costume of who they thought you should be. And walk boldly, naked in your truth. Because the world doesn't need another echo. It needs a voice. One that is unfiltered. Undiluted. Unshaken by the winds of public opinion. Speak, not to be heard, but because silence would betray your soul. Act, not to be admired, but because stillness would be spiritual suicide. Move, not for applause, but because movement is life. The river flows, the stars burn, the earth spins, and so must you. Do not confuse stillness with peace when it's built on avoidance. Growth requires movement. Healing requires motion. Purpose requires force. Force of will. Force of heart. Force of belief that does not need validation to feel real. So stop trying to convince others of your worth. Prove it to yourself, in your daily choices. Because confidence is not built in mirrors, it is built in motion. Every time you act in alignment with your highest values, you earn the right to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, the world feels it. It's in the way you walk. The way you speak. The way you don't flinch when life tries to test your resolve. That's what real power looks like. Not control over others, but mastery of self. And mastery doesn't come from arrival, it comes from repetition. You sharpen your focus like a blade. You lift your standards like a weight. You speak your truth like a ritual. And slowly, quietly, without permission, you become unshakable. Not because life stopped testing you, but because you stopped needing to be rescued from it. You learn that storms are not the enemy, they are the invitation. They ask you, how deep are your roots? How rooted are you in who you are when the lights go out? Can you still stand when everything familiar crumbles? Can you still lead when the crowd vanishes? Can you still love when your heart is tired, your back is bent, your dreams feel far? That's the real test. And passing it doesn't mean you never cry, never doubt, never feel pain. It means you don't let those things define you. You feel the weight, and you carry it anyway. Because this world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones. More resilient ones. More people who are willing to sit in the fire of transformation and rise, not cleaner, not prettier, but truer. Because truth, no matter how scarred, is magnetic. It awakens others. It gives them permission to rise, too. And that, more than fame, more than fortune, is the legacy of a life well lived. You will not be remembered for what you owned, you will be remembered for what you stood for. And standing for something in this world is not easy. It means being willing to disappoint the masses to honor your mission. It means walking away from shallow praise and temporary comfort in order to build something eternal. Because your soul was not made for popularity. It was made for purpose. And that purpose isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear a suit. It doesn't always post on social media. Sometimes purpose is the quiet decision to keep going. To get up again. To stay kind in a cruel world. To plant a seed you may never see bloom, but to plant it anyway. Because the work you do in the dark, it echoes through generations. The way you show up today becomes a blueprint for someone else tomorrow. When you choose honesty over convenience. When you choose kindness in a room full of cruelty. When you choose progress over perfection. You create space. You build bridges. You shift the air in the room. Never underestimate that. The small, daily acts of alignment are the most revolutionary thing you can offer. Because the people we admire, the ones we build statues for, name streets after, write history books about, they were not born with more potential. They were simply willing to act on it. They understood that you don't change the world by criticizing it from a distance. You change it by entering it, fully, fiercely, humbly, and becoming the kind of force that leaves no soul untouched. Think of Gandhi. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. Think of Rosa Parks. Think of Harriet Tubman. These were not perfect people. They were not universally loved. But they moved anyway. Because their why was louder than their fear. And that's what it comes down to. What is your why? What makes you come alive? What pain have you carried that can now become purpose? What wound can become wisdom? What story, buried deep in your soul, can no longer stay silent? Find it. Write it. Speak it. Live it. Because if you're waiting for someone else to lead, you are the one. If you're waiting for permission, you already have it. If you're waiting for the world to change before you do, you've misunderstood your power. You are the world. You are its heartbeat, its builder, its mirror. And every choice you make sends ripples through the human story. So choose boldly. Choose with the awareness that everything you do is either building a bridge or a wall. Either healing the collective or hurting it. Either anchoring you to who you were, or freeing you into who you could be. That is the gravity of your life. And that is why mediocrity is no longer an option. You were not born to be average. You were not born to follow. You were not born to shrink to fit a version of success that doesn't set your soul on fire. You were born to burn. To blaze like a meteor across the sky of your time. To ignite something ancient in others. To wake the sleeping parts of the world through the aliveness in your own. But first, you must wake yourself. Shake off the sleep. Let go of the dead weight of who you used to be. Mourn it if you need to, but do not resurrect it. This moment is asking you to become new. Not improved. Not polished. Transformed. To stop tweaking the mask and finally drop it. To stop dimming your light so others feel comfortable in their shadow. To stop playing small in a life that was always meant to be epic. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far behind. You are exactly where you need to be, for the work that needs to begin now. And yes, it will be hard. It will cost you old versions of yourself. It will isolate you from people who fear your light because they've buried theirs. But it will also give you back your soul. And in the end, that's the only success worth chasing. So be the change. Be the one who interrupts the cycle. Be the one who redefines what's possible. Be the one who dares to live with such relentless authenticity that the world can't help but remember your name. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you lived the truest. And when your time comes to leave this place, let it be said that you left nothing on the table. That you poured it all out. That you became what you were born to be. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. But now. Here. Fully. Because the world doesn't just need another dreamer. It needs a doer. And that doer is you. So rise. Rise, not as a reaction, but as a revelation. Because there is a version of you that this world has not yet met, a version hidden beneath compromise, beneath hesitation, beneath the lie that greatness is for someone else. But that lie is cracking now, isn't it? You can feel it. In the silence between distractions. In the stillness before sleep. In the fire building in your chest every time you look around and wonder, is this all there is? No, it's not. There is more. More to give. More to live. More to be. And it begins the moment you stop outsourcing your power to circumstance. The moment you stop begging the world to shift and instead choose to shift yourself. Do you think revolutions begin with mass approval? No. They begin in the invisible chamber of one person's conscience. They begin in the fury of a soul who can no longer tolerate its own submission. They begin in whispers. In decisions made alone. In promises kept in silence. Until one day, the roar is undeniable. That is who you are becoming. The one who decides. The one who refuses to wait for the world to wake up before living fully awake. So if you hear nothing else, hear this. You don't get another you. You get this one life, in this one body, with this one soul. How dare you treat it like a rehearsal? How dare you delay your rise, waiting for someone else to tell you that it's your time? It is your time. Not because the stars said so. Not because a guru sold you a course. But because you're still breathing, and that means the universe hasn't given up on you yet. You're still here, so the mission is still alive. And that mission isn't to be better than others. It's to be truer than yesterday. It's not to climb ladders others built, it's to build a new staircase, one forged from grit, faith, and raw devotion to what matters. You don't need to know every step. Just take the next one. Then the next. Then the next. You'll stumble. You'll fail. You'll question everything. Good. That's how you know it's real. Anything easy to become was never worth becoming. So keep moving. Keep creating. Keep loving louder than the cynics, standing taller than the doubters, burning brighter than the darkness that says, stay small. Because one day, someone will point to your life and say, because of you, I didn't quit. Because of you, I found hope. Because of you, I saw what was possible. And that, not wealth, not fame, not recognition, that is the real reward. To be a living permission slip for someone else's awakening. But first, you must awaken yourself. So take a deep breath. Feel the weight of everything you've carried. Now let it go. Let go of the shame. Let go of the fear. Let go of the version of you that needed approval to feel alive. And in its place, summon the you that has always been waiting. The you who leads with love and walks with fire. The you who listens more than they speak, but when they speak, nations move. The you who no longer lives as a reaction to what the world is, but as a vision for what it can be. This is your genesis. Your sacred reclamation. No more hoping. No more watching. No more playing a role in someone else's story. It's time to write your own. Write it boldly. Write it imperfectly. Write it with tears and fury and faith. Write it so fiercely that even your past has no choice but to bow to your future. Because this world doesn't need more bystanders. It needs builders. It needs the broken who became brave. The lost who dared to lead. The silent who finally found their voice. And maybe, just maybe, it needs you, exactly as you are, stepping out of the shadows and into your full, unapologetic power. You were never too much. You were only ever too awake for a world still asleep. But you don't need to be understood to be true. You don't need to be celebrated to be great. You don't need to be liked to be legendary. You only need one thing, the courage to begin. To live like your life is your message. To rise like your breath is borrowed from eternity. To become what you were born to become, fully, fiercely, finally. Be the change. Not someday. Not when it's easy. Now. Because the world will not remember the noise you avoided. It will remember the fire you became. So burn, legend. Burn.